Morning shooting has left 3 men in hospital. Tyler Cheese has the very latest from police on what we've learned so far.
It's kind of frightening, and I mean, you're wondering, I moved here thinking that Toronto would be safer, and I think I'm having second thoughts.
Local residents expressing concern after waking to a crime scene in their neighborhood.
You hear about so many shootings happening and something happening this close to my place, it's sort of jarring a bit, yeah.
It's scary to see, but and especially if it's a shooting in the morning, that's like when people are out during the day.
Police say they were called to an after-hours bar here on Spadina Avenue, just north of Queen Street West, around 5:20 a.m.
When police arrived on scene, they located 3 males who had been shot. 3 males were transported to the hospital.
Police say 2 of the men have non-life-threatening injuries, while the third is in critical but stable condition. They also say one of the 3 men is a suspect in the shooting.
At this time, we know that a suspect attended the bar armed with 2 firearms. While in the bar, the suspect got in an altercation with employees. During this altercation, the suspect produced a firearm. At this time, 2 employees were shot, and the suspect himself sustained a gunshot wound as well.
A section of Spadina was closed off for much of the morning as forensic detectives assessed the scene, but has since been reopened. Police are appealing for witnesses to come forward.
When the incident occurred, our officers arrived on scene very shortly, within less than a minute, and observed numerous people leaving the bar at the same time. So there were quite a few individuals in there, and officers observed as many people left. And we want to speak to those people to come forward, just witnesses, if any cell phone videos to share with the police.
Police say the Guns and Gangs unit is also investigating, but say it's too soon to share any additional details. Drivers with dash cams are also asked to contact police if they were driving along Spadina around the time of the shooting. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
5 of 8 people accused in a shooting near a Toronto recording studio last month have had their charges stayed. Court documents reveal that happened at the request of the prosecution. Nearly 100 gunshots rang out on November 11th, bullets flying between 2 groups. Fortunately, no one was hurt. Police at the time said 8 people were facing more than 30 firearms-related charges. Toronto police now say they anticipate more arrests and charges as their investigation continues. And Toronto police once again investigating a smash-and-grab robbery at a jewelry store. Just the latest in a spike across southern Ontario. You're looking at Centre Point Mall in North York. Police say they got a call there just after 6 o'clock Friday night. A woman in her 30s was hurt but is expected to be okay. It's unclear whether she was a mall employee or shopper. Toronto police say jewelry store robberies are up. There's been 43 this year. That is double compared to last year. Now, police in Hamilton also recently caught some alleged thieves in the act.
We had several units in the area, and police were able to apprehend 5 suspects as they were fleeing the store. The suspects are 4 adults and 1 youth.
This is video from Ancaster Thursday night. Police say the suspect smashed into this jewelry store by using that pickup truck, crashing through the front window, then allegedly pointing a gun at the owner before shattering displays. Now, the business owner was taken to hospital with minor injuries. No customers were shopping at the time. Police say the suspects did manage to get away with some jewelry. Some has been recovered, but more still may be missing. The holiday shopping frenzy is here, and with the federal tax break coming 1 week from today, there could be some relief in the checkout line, but as Tyreek Reed shows us, not everyone is celebrating. In fact, some small business owners say they are now scrambling.
All across the country, shoppers are rushing to the cash register as holiday shopping gets underway. But a potential GST and HST tax break could soon see price tags lowered on some items. A gift to shoppers not from Santa, but from the federal government. But a pain for small businesses.
We have over 3,000 SKUs, so we have to go through each and every one of them and try to figure out if it qualifies under the rules that the government has set out. And there isn't a ton of guidance on the rules. rules.
Beginning December 14th, shoppers will no longer be charged 13% HST on products such as prepared foods, restaurant meals, and children's toys, to name a few, leaving small businesses picking through some gray areas.
You know, there's games that are marketed to children. So what age of the children? You know, a lot of the things we sell are like 8+, but adults could play them. Does that count? Does that not count?
And with a fast approaching deadline, business owners like Christina Cotiadis say the work has turned the Christmas season into a Christmas nightmare.
I'm definitely frightened. I have edited 4,000 out of 30,000 products so far. I know my deadline is rapidly approaching, but it's going to take a lot of long nights after taking care of my son, unfortunately. And unfortunately, when he goes down for bed, usually I try to rest for the next day, but now I'm stuck editing till midnight on my laptop.
And while the move to help Canadians save money is welcome, some say there were better options on the table.
A permanent tax cut is what Canadians want and need. Temporary tax cuts are not the way to go here. So if we were going to make if we're going to trim the list of products that are taxable, well, then let's do that and do that one time. But what we're doing now, it has a small benefit, but a lot of costs. And those costs are not borne by government. They're not borne by consumers. They're borne by small and medium-sized businesses who are already dealing with enough right now.
The bill is now before the Senate. If passed, the temporary tax break will run from December 14th until February 15th. Tariq Reed, CBC News, Toronto.
International students and advocates taking part in a rally in Brampton. They say recent changes by the federal government have put international students at risk of deportation.
They have been dehumanized and commodified into being these disposable entities who were needed for the Canadian economy and to build infrastructure of universities. And now, in response to right-wing rhetoric, the minister is pulling back on their rights.
Today marks 100 days since the students started their encampment protest. Immigration Minister Mark Miller appeared before a standing committee on citizenship and immigration just last week in response to a question by a Conservative MP about the backlog of asylum claims. Miller says further reforms to immigration will be proposed in the coming weeks.
There are an increasing number of international students making asylum claims, I think with very little hope given their conditions. They, whether you like it or not, are entitled to a form of due process in this country. Are there things we can do to make sure that's more streamlined? I would encourage you to follow the next few weeks as we propose more amendments to the immigration system and the asylum system. This is a system that is in need of reform, and it's in need of reform in the right way.
Back in October, the federal government announced they will be reducing the annual intake of permanent residents by 21%, with further cuts expected in the coming years. The cost for some essential Toronto services could spike in the new year. Staff are recommending both water and solid waste rates go up by 3.75%. The city's budget chief says that increase is needed because of inflation. She says the fees also help pay for billions in flood prevention work.
If you're talking to someone who badly needs Toronto Water to get on with the basement flooding mitigation work in their neighborhood, they will say, yes, we need to do this.
The cost of all city garbage bins could also be increasing by 3.75%. It means the price of the bins will jump between $11 and $21, depending on the size. The proposed increases first go to the mayor's executive committee for approval. City Council gets the final say later this month. You're looking live at Toronto's snowy skyline. A winter weather travel advisory in effect as we're seeing some snow falling, especially over the eastern edge of the region. Tracking it all for us tonight is Sophia. You know, just a warning for people to take it slow on the roads.
Yeah, OPP reminding motorists to note before you go, check out the conditions and any closures at play. It has been a snow parade this past week. Persistent snow squalls. This is now a clipper system, adding insult to injury and dropping a widespread 5 to even 15 centimeters, depending on where you are. It's just starting to lift out of the GTA right now. We'll talk about some of the areas that could see some heavier snow into the overnight period. Some of the areas that got nailed with snow last weekend around the Georgian and the Huron shores are on the hook yet again. You're seeing snow along the 400 as we speak, Highway 6, Highway 11, some of the areas where we saw some closures last weekend. Heavier snow for those of you in the east end of the GTA, as Shannon mentioned, Ajax, Newmarket, Pickering, even over to the Coburg area. You're seeing upwards of 5 to 10 centimeters, 10 to 15 along the Georgian shores, about 10 along the Huron shores, and up to 15 around the nation's capital region, where this will linger a little bit. Winds blowing around any of the freshly fallen white stuff at about 50 kilometers an hour for Saturday evening. And as you know, all you need is a couple centimeters around the GTA to cause travel headaches and slick roads. Winds about 40 kilometers an hour in Ottawa for Sunday morning as that snow finally tapers off. Now, we'll talk more about this in the long range. This Clipper system brings in a southerly flow that will bump up our temperatures substantially for Sunday into Monday and even bring about some rain. What does this mean for some of you areas that have about 6 feet of snow on the ground? We'll talk about the ideas of flood and melt and river water levels when we come back in the long range, Shannon.
Oh boy, lots to cover. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
A Canadian is among the 21 new cardinals installed by Pope Francis in Rome. Frank Leo has been the Archbishop of Toronto since early last year. Megan Williams takes a closer look at the new cardinal from Canada.
At age 53, Francis, or Frank Leo, is the youngest of Canada's now 5 cardinals. Now, Pope Francis has usually chosen cardinals from the periphery, different parts of the world, and avoided big cities. So Leo says he was surprised to find out he was on the list.
It just came out of the blue. I heard about it on that same Sunday morning. A little after 6, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree, and I got all these messages, congratulations, but I didn't know what they were referring to. And then one cardinal said, welcome to the college.
Leo grew up in Montreal, the son of Italian immigrants. He has worked as a Vatican diplomat, as a parish priest, and taught theology. He believes in Catholic doctrine and enforcing it. He doesn't believe women should be priests. And in a letter to parishioners earlier this year, he put contraception on a list of the world's evils.
I don't think there should be female priests in the church. Yeah. Well, because Christ did not choose women to be part of the 12. Not because men are better than women, but they have a different complementary role in the church. And so we want to follow Christ's wisdom and example.
With today's latest consistory, Pope Francis will have elected 80% of the cardinals who will be voting for the next pope. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
The Notre Dame Cathedral welcoming visitors today for the first time since a catastrophic fire nearly destroyed it back in 2019. We'll take you there next. Syria's government is hanging in the balance. Opposition forces advancing from the south are just 30 kilometers from the capital, Damascus, and rebels from the north are surrounding the key city of Homs. Video showing rebels patrolling the city's countryside, losing Homs would isolate the regime from its strongest supporters and from a Russian military base. A string of major cities have fallen in just days. Now, army desertions are being reported. One group crossing into Iraq. Outside Damascus, protesters toppled a statue of the late father of the current president. Meantime, the president of South Korea has survived an impeachment vote. Still, protesters rally outside Parliament, calling for his removal from office. As Ithel Musa shows us, the vote comes after his decision to impose a short-lived period of martial law.
South Korean protesters are refusing to back down. Some, with tears in their eyes, are vowing to remain in the streets until the country's embattled president, Yoon Suk-yeol, is ousted. I came here with unbearable anger due to Yoon, who completely destroyed our democracy by declaring martial law, says this woman. I will continue to attend this rally until he is impeached. Yoon imposed martial law late Tuesday to root out so-called anti-state forces. The move, which temporarily put the military in charge, drew criticism from even his own ruling Conservative Party. Yoon apologized, but he refused to step down. An attempt by opposition lawmakers to impeach Yoon failed, but experts warn their efforts and South Korea's political upheaval are likely not over.
President Yoon has been suffering from not only low public approval ratings, but pretty tough fights in the legislature throughout his term so far. And so I think we should expect more attempts from the Democratic Party going forward to find different ways to push through an impeachment.
Earlier this week, the leader of Yoon's ruling party said he would not support the opposition's impeachment motion. But now he's calling for the president's suspension. The People Power Party will pursue an orderly departure of the president in order to minimize confusion for the people, says Han Dong-hoon. The president has already said he will follow the party's decision on his term in office. Han says there is credible evidence Yoon had intended to arrest political leaders. If Yoon is removed from office, an election to replace him must take place within 60 days. Idolmus, CBC News, Toronto.
Turning next to a day of celebration in Paris, one of the world's most recognized buildings, the Notre Dame, opening its doors once again. You'll remember 5 years ago, it was nearly destroyed by fire. Chris Reyes takes us inside.
With the thud of his staff, the Archbishop of Paris officially reopened the doors of Notre Dame, bathing its exterior with light and cueing a children's choir waiting inside. In attendance, world leaders and dignitaries. In his first overseas visit since re-election, President-elect Donald Trump was seated next to French President Emmanuel Macron. One seat over, U.S. First Lady Jill Biden and her daughter. Other dignitaries present, Prince William and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was invited but had another engagement in Canada. Macron gave the opening speech.
Ce soir, les cloches de Notre-Dame.
This evening, the bells of Notre Dame are ringing once again, he said. The biggest applause of the night belonged to those who saved the historic cathedral and eventually brought it back to life. Firefighters and stonemasons, artists and builders, carpenters and architects, and so many others.
Ils ont montré que nous avions la volonté en...
President Macron praised them and said they showed that we had the willingness still to build and to continue the legend over the centuries. Projected onto the cathedral in bright lights, the words merci and thank you in many languages. After the fire, Macron set the ambitious deadline of restoring the cathedral in 5 years. It took almost $1 billion and thousands of workers to make it happen.
Nous avons redécouvert.
We have rediscovered what the big nations could do to obtain the possible, he said. This cathedral was a happy metaphor for what is a nation and what should be the world. The cathedral is now open to the public free of charge, marking a new chapter for the historic landmark whose story began more than 850 years ago. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
And with Christmas just weeks away, the Etobicoke Lakeshore Santa Claus Parade taking over the streets this morning. The lesser known of Toronto's Santa Claus Parades, it was founded in 1990 by the Lakeshore Village and Long Branch BIAs. More festive fun happening in Toronto today. Toronto Fire hosting its Christmas party for kids and their families in Scarborough. They got a chance to meet Mrs. Claus and Santa while also taking part in face painting, jumping around in bouncy castles, and making all sorts of arts and crafts. Another live look for you this evening from the nation's capital. Winter weather travel advisory there too. Anywhere from 10 to 15 centimeters of snow expected. A very busy evening for you, Sophia. And then a warm up on the way that could really complicate things.
We're expecting some melt and the potential of some high waterways and water levels with a bit of a temperature roller coaster. But right now, let's talk about that wintry scene and this parade of snowy systems that we've seen. Persistent squalls this past week. City of Toronto had its first snowfall on a Wednesday with the first clipper of the season. We're getting the second one today, and then warm enough for rain on Monday with this active storm track that we've been in. Let's talk about this clipper, because for many of you on the Georgian and the Huron shores, you are in the midst of getting an extra 10 to 15 centimeters on top of that some 100 centimeters that you have still on the ground. About 5 for those of you around the GTA, a little bit more to the east end of the GTA. All you need is a few centimeters to stall and snarl the traffic around the 6, and you're getting quite a bit around the Ottawa Valley as that clipper system kind of stalls out. All the major routes are affected, especially highways 400, 6, and 11. We talked about that a little earlier in the show. You will continue to see the snow tomorrow morning in Ottawa. Now, after this clipper, a southerly flow comes in. Look at our temperatures for Sunday, 5 degrees. Should be about 1-2 degrees this time of year to be around seasonal. This is a couple degrees above. You'll expect a little bit of a melt Monday as well. But that snow, especially around some of the Georgian and the Huron shores with a 5-degree temperature getting quite compacted in that melt, maybe a bit of thaw into the overnight, but it will be warm enough Monday into Tuesday for a rainy system to come in. Watch this play out. There's the clipper, tail end of it passing out throughout Sunday. Clouds and warm for Sunday, and then the next system comes in with rain for all of us in parts of southern Ontario. It's when we get to that perfect time of year where it's a slushy mess with all of the snow on the ground. It won't last long, especially clear out those storm and rain and storm sewers, because later on in the week, the more sub-zero temperatures come in with more below freezing daytime highs and chilly overnight lows, the chance of some more lake effect for Wednesday as well. But really, seasonal values for the middle and the end of this next week, Shannon.
Okay, thanks, Sophia. A bit of a roller coaster for us. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.
Certainly is.
Thank you. Bit of a performance there from students from Eastwood Collegiate Institute in Kitchener, who make up the jazz band Combo Number 5. CBC Kitchener Waterloo kicking off their Make the Season Kind event last night in downtown Kitchener, raising $14,000 for the local food bank. It's all part of CBC's annual countrywide campaign in support of food banks. The event welcoming the local community to enjoy a festive night of programming and music. That's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching. Before we go, though, we have perhaps the most adorable footage of the newscast. That's the snow leopard cubs at Toronto Zoo enjoying the first snowfall of the season. That's Zoya and Minu playing around in the fresh powder along with their mom, Jita. They were born in May. This is their first experience in a habitat similar to home, and they're loving it. We'll see you tomorrow.